All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Perfect.
Misty, would you call the roll, please?
David Burris.
Here.
J.R. Huddleston.
Here.
Deborah Johnston.
Here.
Bill Lukens.
Here.
Larry Pratt.
Here.
Craig Romey.
Here.
Caitlin Turner. Here. Linda Varvel.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remember conflict of interest. If you have any concerns about a vote, let the council know, please. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 4th council meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 4th council meeting.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Need a motion on the bills in between.
I make a motion to approve the bills in between for $198,783.43.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Motion to approve the current claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the current claims, the amount of $135,438.20.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Done.
We will have law and order.
Oops. I voted yes, by the way, on current claims.
Do we have any communications from the public?
Yes,
Come on down.
This is the first meeting that I've been here, so.
Yeah, if you'd share your name and address
Okay.
for the record.
Gene Frederickson at 200 South Garden Street.
Try to get close to the mic.
Gene Frederickson at 200 South Garden Street. And we're here to, we just put in a garage, and what we want to do is put in a driveway to wherever the road's going to be. And there's the problem. We live on, it used to be probably a pretty dilapidated asphalt road, and now it's more of a gravel road. And we live right on the turn, so we have a number of issues there. But the key item, though, is if we could get a decision made as far as where that road is going to go. We have heard that they're going to try to make it more straighter. Right now it's fairly curved, and there's a lot of speeders there, and I've seen many a person go sideways there, either on purpose or without knowing that that curve is even there. I've talked to the safety committee to try to get a speed limit or speed bumps, that kind of a thing, which would help. But the key item that we're looking at is to get a decision made by the city whether they're going to straighten it and do it and asphalt it if it's supposed to be asphalted. I've heard that it should be. I don't know what the status is. But those are the key items that we're seeing. Part of the problem is where the curve is right now. People are cutting the corner, and we've lost like 3 feet of the line coming in because they're cutting the corner. Our property line actually goes out 8 to 10 feet into the road. So if they're gonna straighten the road out more to make less of a curve, it would be nice if they moved it away a little bit. It's just one of those things. I'm sure it was that way for many a year before we got here. But anyway, I'm looking for a decision that can be made to straighten out the road and asphalt it if that's, I heard that was in the plans before they did downtown, but I don't know I'm not involved with those decisions, so. But our request is that they get her done, make the decision, and get it out there as far as planning.
I know it's public safety. We've addressed the speed limit there and getting that sign up at both ends, plus the curve sign.
Right.
So we can hopefully reduce the speed.
Some of it, yeah. I understand.
On there. It behooves us to have a look, see where your property line is from where the where the roadway should be. And I think if we take a note and meet with Scott, I think we could probably get a good determination where that's to be.
Okay. That sounds good. That's all we're requesting.
I think that ought to be on Public Works.
Yep.
Yeah, it's also the safety aspect from the speed.
I know.
But, yeah, I think it behooves us again to get with Scott and make the determination of what's what and where we should be. And
Yeah.
we don't want you to lose any of your property line by any means.
Right. We would put rocks along there, but then we'd be putting it out in the middle of the road. So,
Yeah, that has been that way for probably a century.
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
sir.
Thank you.
Dean? Dean?
Dean?
Gene. Gene? All right. Talking about straightening the road, and you had mentioned there was some discussion when the work downtown was being done, or before the work downtown was going to be done. Are you referring to the new reconstruction going through town?
Yes.
Okay. I don't recall straightening the road was ever a part of the discussion for the road reconstruction. It was discussed when Jennings Bridge was replaced. There was some concern that the crane that would need to get in there to bring the beams in for the bridge might not be able to make that corner. There was also some concern about the fire trucks being able to make the corner. After that was looked into more, there wasn't any decision. The decision wasn't to straighten the road. As I understand the layout of it right now, to straighten it, we would have to go across some private property to do that. That property directly to the north of you is private property. But to JR's point and Craig's point, as a city, we need to ask Scott and Tracy to take a look and identify where the road right-of-way is for that road. And we need to make sure the road's on city property and not private property. So we'll do that for you. Any other comments from the public? All right. Need a motion to approve personnel actions A through D.
Make a motion to approve personnel actions A through D.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Our first ordinance of the evening is the first reading of Ordinance 1237, an ordinance revising Title 9. Need a motion on that, please?
Make a motion to approve the first reading of Ordinance 1237, an ordinance revising Title 9, General Regulations, Chapter 95, Fire Prevention and Protection, 93.06, Fireworks.
Second.
Discussion. For the public, council has been talking about changing this particular ordinance. It started, the conversation started prior to 4th of July, that the ordinance that was in place allowed fireworks for too long a period of time. It was then brought to our attention that fireworks aren't allowed in the Black Hills fire protection boundary to begin with, the types that we have been allowing the public to use. So Bill and JR took a look at this ordinance and came up with the changes to it. So it's going to severely limit the types of fireworks that the public can use. But this is a direct addressing of the fireworks ordinance as it existed and getting it in line with what we're actually able to do.
And the kudos go to Bill for his hard work on this.
And just for the folks that don't have this in front of them, what South Dakota codified law allows within the Black Hills National Forest Fire Protection District is the only thing that is allowed is novelty type fireworks, which is, we list them in the ordinance, which is right out of the law. It's essentially things like sparklers, smoke bombs, and snakes. So essentially, anything other than that you would be able to purchase from a fireworks vendor south of Cheyenne River, you can't shoot in the city limits of Hot Springs or actually any place within the boundaries of the Black Hills National Forest Fire Protection District. This provides protection for you and it provides protection for the city. If we allow you to do that and a fire is set, the city could be held liable for the cost of extinguishment. Now, if you decide that you still want to use the normal commercial fireworks that you've seen in the past, and you start a fire, you personally can be held liable for the cost of extinguishment. And just to get an idea of what that might cost you, if any of you were around in August of 2018 and saw the effort that was put forth to extinguish the vineyard fire, there were probably 50 units here from a number, I don't even remember how many agencies over a period of about 5 days, including helicopters and aircraft. And so I don't even know what the price tag was, but that's the type of liability that we would be looking at if we allowed fireworks to be shot off in Hot Springs. Now, the state law allows for cities to continue with display fireworks. That is a different class of fireworks. What we purchase at the first of the year from a different type of vendor, those have to be shot off by a trained individual. We have firefighters on site, and we have the ability to stop that at any time. So that's why a city can put on a display, and we have that flexibility. So because we can pull the plug on that at any time. And quite frankly, if the wind gets up above, I think it's like 10 miles an hour, we'll stop it. Or if the fire danger is too high, we won't do it. We have control over that, so we can manage the risk by allowing consumers just to do what they want. There's no, there's just really no control of the hazard. And so we cannot, in good conscience, allow that to go on, because we are breaking state law by doing that. And we are endangering the Black Hills. We're endangering livelihoods. We're endangering life if we do that. So it may sound harsh, but it's absolutely necessary to do that.
Any other questions or comments from council? Misty, would you call the roll, please?
David Burris,
Yes.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes.
Bill Lukens.
Yes.
Larry Pratt.
Here.
Yes. Or no?
Yes. Here. Yes.
Yes. Greg Romy,
Yes.
Caitlin Turner,
Yes.
Linda Varvel.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the first reading passes. On to resolution, our first resolution, Resolution 2012-22, resolution establishing a new full-time certified police officer, school resource officer.
Make a motion to approve 2012-22, a resolution establishing a new full-time certified police officer, school resource officer within the city of Hot Springs.
Second.
It's 2021.
What'd they say?
2012,
Oh.
just like Mayor did.
It's a typo. Okay.
Oh, is it typed in there?
Yep.
Yeah. Mine says 2021.
It's 2021.
Sorry about that. I correct that.
right down there.
2021-22.
On the actual thing.
Yeah, it
Right.
does.
Okay.
Questions? So this is the first of a two-part action the council needs to take. This is actually approving the new position. We haven't had it before. So if council approves it tonight, that gives the city an opportunity to go out and advertise for the position and begin looking for the right person to fill the school resource officer position. Last council meeting, I had sent to you in your information packets the job description for the position itself, and then I'd sent a contract, proposed contract with the city of Hot Springs, or with the Hot Springs School District. So we're still fine tuning the language on that. The hope is to have that in front of you at the next council meeting for approval. I forwarded to the chief of police, Bill, JR, Troy Lurs at the school, to have them take a look at it, forward it to our attorney for him to take a look at it. But we can get this done and we can begin advertising for the position so that when we get the contract signed with the school, that the officer will be able to start working. That's the intent of this particular resolution. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. New business item A, a possible motion discussion to approve the Hot Springs Municipal Airport Hangar land lease agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the HS Municipal Airport Hangar land lease agreement with Terry Hinn for renewal of expiring land lease for 1/2 of the 40 by 60 square foot of airport property where the private hangar named Building 8 is currently located, effective 11/1/21 for an initial term of 10 years, billed annually at 12 cents per square foot.
Second.
Discussion?
Is this a city hangar or a private hangar?
Private hangar.
So Bill, you've talked with council a little bit about getting these hangar leases straightened out and getting a common lease.
Yes, this is, I think, last meeting, we approved one with Larry Vetterman. This year, I think, Misty, help me out, we have 3 or 4 leases that were expiring. That's why we worked so hard at getting a new land lease agreement put together. We had some very strange terms. We had some strange and archaic language that we got rid of. I think some of the old terms were $1 a year. Things have changed over time as the FAA has, tried to promote municipal airports, and so this is the agreement we came up with. Kind of meets the current trend of what the FAA prefers to see. It has all the right bits and pieces in there for what the FAA would like to see in a land lease agreement. And so I think we've got this one, and then we've got one more that will come due, and then instead of doing a 30-year lease, the way we've written these is a 10-year lease with 2 10-year renewals. So at the end of this 10 years, we'll renew the lease, but we'll do it at whatever rate for the land is that the council has set at that point. So we're not locked in at 12 cents a square foot for 30 years. So whatever it happens to be in 10 years, that's what the individual can renew at. And then at the end of that 30 years, they can execute a new contract if they haven't sold the hangar, and a new individual would do that. So it allows us to keep going forward and not tie ourselves to an antiquated rate.
And as we discussed too, this is the going rate of 12 cents. Is it?
Yes,
it's an average rate.
It's a pretty average rate, and that's one of the things that we have to watch with our airport, is because we are essentially an FAA. I mean, it is federal land. The rates we charge have to be in general alignment with other regional airports. So we can't just go out there and go crazy with our rates. They have to be in line with other neighboring facilities.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item B, possible motion discussion to approve the Hot Springs Municipal Airport Hangar Land Lease Agreement.
I make a motion to approve the Hot Springs Municipal Airport Hangar Land Lease Agreement with John Nash for renewal of expiring land lease for 1/2 of the 40 by 60 square feet of airport property where the private hangar named Building 8 is currently located, effective 11/1/2021, for an initial term of 10 years, billed annually at 12 cents per square foot.
Second.
Discussion? Oh, this is the same agreement that you just approved, just with a different individual.
The other half of the same building.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item C, a possible motion discussion to approve 2 temporary alcoholic beverage license applications.
Make the motion to approve 2 temporary alcoholic beverage license applications from the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce for the Chamber Mixer event to be held at the Mueller Civic Center, 801 South 6th Street on 11/4/21, and the Chamber Christmas Soiree event to be held at the Mueller Civic Center, 801 South 6th Street on 12/16/21.
Second.
Discussion. So in your information side, Misty was good enough to reference a number of South Dakota codified laws, city ordinance that helps guide us in how we decide whether they should be approved or not. Talks about the things we can look at or we can consider. The question was raised where the Chamber of Commerce is going to be purchasing their liquor from. That's not a question that we can use to judge whether they should be granted the temporary alcoholic beverage licenses. So there was discussion last time, and we tabled it to put it back in front of you folks. But again, there is no, we don't have the right to ask them where they're going to be purchasing their liquor from.
So we don't have the right to ask who is going to be actually delving out the alcohol.
No, that's not what he's saying.
Well, originally, wasn't that the question that you asked, Craig?
What's that?
Whose license would it be under?
Whose name would it be under?
The chamber.
So it's always, for them, it's just whoever is actually there.
They're getting the temporary license.
Okay.
The
It's their
question,
license.
the question that was raised is where was the alcohol going to be purchased from?
Okay, then I misunderstood. I thought we was trying to figure out who the license holder for the event was going to be.
Yeah, that's what I understood too.
Yeah, that was, I think there was a lot of questions, and what Misty's provided us is a civic or charitable organization can hold a temporary license. And that was the question is, do they have to have a license holder do the serving? And the answer is no, they can serve the alcohol if we issue them a temporary license.
Right.
Now, the Bill and Dave show couldn't do this because we're individuals, but the chamber, being a civic organization, can hold a temporary alcoholic beverage license.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. New business item D, a possible motion, discussion, and approve an automatic budget supplement.
Make the motion to approve automatic budget supplement of $7,828.65 to the police department, vehicle repairs and maintenance. That is 101-42100-42510. Reimbursement revenue received from claims. Association Incorporated, claim number #GC20211080022, collision damage on 9/2/21.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item E, a possible motion, discussion, to approve contract 2021-10.
Make a motion to approve the contract 2021-10 use agreement of Southern Hills Community Recreation Initiative, SHCRI, to the use of Mueller Civic Center for youth gymnastics from November 2021 to February 2021, coinciding with the Hot
That's
Springs
wrong
High
date.
School use of the facility for gymnastics.
I think that February 2021 should say 2022.
Correct.
Apologize.
Just reading what's on there.
Yep, sorry.
Second.
Discussion.
So this is gonna be $50 per class.
Per day of use, yes.
Didn't Chris want to have like $125?
That's what he originally was proposing, yes. And when the folks in support of Shrek addressed the council last council meeting, we asked Parks and Recreation to have the discussion about what the recommendation would be for this year. So Larry, if you'd go into that a little bit.
The microphone doesn't work. But part of the recommendation that they were talking. Thank you. Thank you very much. Part of the recommendation was that they had basically wanted to know if, go ahead and finish out this year doing the $50 a month thing, and then next year going on to the half a day or doing a nonprofit. So that was the recommendation for the committee. That's all.
Deborah, you were at the meeting. Do you have any comments?
There was discussion about, what other communities are doing, and we've received a letter from this group with comparisons, and It was also agreed at that meeting that we would be re-looking at a potential non-for-profit option charge. And they will be looking for people to sponsor and help support all of the children who can't afford higher prices. So it's kind of a combination thing that we're going to be working on. Hopefully we'll get squared away before next year's prices come due. But we really do want to support any activities that support our children. But we have to be able to pay the bills too. So.
To your question, Craig, about what Chris had recommended, I talked with Chris about the particular contract when I had edited to update it to this year and next year and had the $50 in it. He was under the impression that the contract would have the language in it that would be $50 this year and then the $120 going forward. Well, this is only a one-year contract. Because there's discussion about what the rate would be, whether there'll be a nonprofit rate established for other programs also. There just didn't seem to be a need to have that particular language in here because there'll be new language for it next year anyway.
Okay, I was just curious.
Any other comments?
This is a tough one. We heard a lot of really good support last meeting for this. And it's tough. It's an emotional issue. And I personally have to go back to the guidance we get from South Dakota codified law about what is our responsibility as a city. And as a city, we have a responsibility to provide a water system, a sewer system, streets. We've chosen to have a police department, so we have a responsibility there. We've chosen to have a library, so we have a responsibility there. We've chosen to have a civic center, so we have a responsibility to maintain the civic center for the use of the community. We have a golf course that is an enterprise fund. We've chosen certain things that we have a responsibility to fund either through taxpayer dollars or through their own revenue streams as enterprise funds. And we spent about 16 hours in budget hearings working very hard to come up with a balanced budget, but it wasn't a structurally balanced budget. We worked hard at cutting, we squeezed and squeezed, and we still had to dip into savings to fund everything we felt we had to do for next year. And I say all that just to say that I'm going to vote no on this, and not to be a Grinch, not because I don't like kids, not because I don't like kids' activities, but because I see our city responsibilities as what I just summarized, and that's where I think we need to stick, and that's, as representative of the city, that's where my vote has to go. And it's a hard vote, but that's the way I'm going to vote, and I just wanted to share that.
The only questions I had, and that never really got no answers, is how much does it cost each child for this?
I think right now they're being charged $50 a piece for the whole season. And many of them will have to quit if the price goes up to the $125, I think. Is what they would charge.
Well,
I could be wrong on that. Oh, we have someone who knows the real thing. Yeah.
Each age group has a different price for their classes. Are you talking about how much the cost for classes is?
Yes,
Well,
per
like,
child.
per child, each age group has a different cost for classes. So, but I could tell you all the breakdown of everything. If you want to know all expenses, all fees for every family, on and on. But if you want to come, I mean, I don't know if you want all that detail. It's a lot more than what we're discussing here.
Before next year, could you give the city council a copy of that for us all to research?
Of everything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
How many different age groups do you have? We have 4 or 5 right now.
So you could tell him the cost per student in each of those 4 age groups right now?
If I can tell you the expenses as well. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're starting a new class this year. It's called Mommy and Me. So that's 110 for 11 days. And that includes insurance, of course, for mom and child. So that class is actually going to be more expensive than all the other classes. And then we have a big pre-K class, which is 130, I believe, because we just raised it $10 in case we had issues. And then we have a beginner's class, which is 150. And then we have an advanced and intermediate classes, which is 190 this year. And then on top of that, why we have those rates, okay, which is still cheaper than Rapid City Gymnastics. On top of that, our expenses are over $6,000. I didn't bring it with me. I brought it with me last meeting. But our insurance to cover the equipment in your facility is over $1,200. We have that through AAU. And then, of course, we pay city taxes. So we do pay you folks already. And then we have city and state taxes. And we have 3 instructors this year because we have a new instructor that we're paying. We have 4 instructors total, but 1 donates her time. We buy our volunteers gift certificates for helping out. And then all of our instructors are USA Gymnastics certified. So we have to pay for their certifications and their renewals of memberships for AAU and USA Gymnastics. So anyways, that adds up to be like $6,200 and something.
Does that include the instructors at 6,000 something? That you pay the instructors?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so last season, we didn't have classes last year, but the previous season, our expenses were that much, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Larry, does Parks and Recreation have a recommendation?
What I wrote down from what I understood, and that's why I asked twice, I think, if you remember correct me on this, Deb, is keep 1 more year at same rate, raise next year standard rate, half-day rate, or rate for nonprofit.
Right, that's right.
Correct? That's what I got to. So that was a recommendation from the committee.
All right.
Thank you, Deb.
Any other questions? Misty, would you call the roll, please?
David Burris,
I'll be the first Grinch. No.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes,
Bill Lukens,
No.
Larry Pratt.
This is a tough one. I mean, honestly. Yes.
Craig Romy,
No.
Caitlin Turner,
No.
Linda Varvel.
yes.
Mary have a tie.
Motion passes. Thank you, council. New business item F. Possible motion discussion to accept the resignation of Beth Merkel from the library board.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Beth Merkel from the library board and appoint John Gregory to serve the remainder of her 3-year term, which expires 6/2022.
Second.
Discussion?
Is that the same John Gregory that worked for us?
Yes.
Well, the only reason I'm asking is he told me that as soon as his contract where he lives is up, he's moving back home. And that's in November. I mean, I have no problems putting somebody on there, but you know, is he going to guarantee he's going to be here for 3 years? Or in a couple months, we're going to have to put somebody else on there? You don't know that question, do you? Answer, I mean.
The term expires in next year, in
June.
6/22.
Next June.
It's the remainder of the 3-year
The
term.
remainder of the 3-year term.
And the recommendation came from the library board. I imagine they probably had discussions with him prior to recommending his appointment.
And plans can change. He's probably staying.
Under your contract on his apartment.
I asked the same question, whether or not it was the same.
Yes. And as Misty mentioned, I had the discussion with Jane Farrell, who's president of the library board, and suggest they have that conversation before they make the recommendation. So,
Okay.
any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Did you get that, Misty?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion passes. New business item G, possible motion discussion to approve travel training request from Okoye Zimiga.
I make a motion to approve travel training request from Akoya Zimiga, EPMS Aquatics Wellness Director, to attend lifeguard instructor training at Belfouche, South Dakota, 10/22/21 through 10/24/21.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item H, possible motion discussion to approve travel training request from Jason Corral.
I'll make a motion to approve travel training request from Jason Corral, Class 1 wastewater maintenance operator, to attend WW Treatment 2 operator certification exam in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, November 2nd, 2021 through November 3rd, 2021.
Second.
Discussion? So with this motion, it's certainly important that Jason get this particular certification. The question has been raised if whether the training can be done in Spearfish just a couple weeks after this one and still meet the requirements. So we've asked Tracy to take a look at that and I'll see if we can do it in Spearfish versus Sioux Falls. But approving the training is certainly important. The location might change. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. On to committee reports, administrative and finance, JR?
Next meeting is November 1st here at the Civic Center.
What time?
1 p.m.
Yeah, that's what I said, 1 p.m.
Thank you. Airport advisory, Bill?
Airport Advisory Committee met on Thursday, October 7th, 8 a.m. at the airport. In attendance were Larry Vetterman, Don Connor, Ed Jensen, and Shane Miller. Employees present were Rick Breitenbach, the airport manager, and Tracy Bastian. Elected officials present were myself. Guests were Sarah Beckham and Terry Hinn. Communications from the public. Sarah Beckham was present there to learn about the airport and the functioning of the committees and the issues that it addresses. We had no old business. Under new business, September flight operations, we had 15 balloon takeoffs and landings. We had 226 fixed wing flight operations. Our credit card point of sales device is working well. The city hangar is being utilized for both long-term and transient use. Current fuel usage is about 4,000 gallons. The current wholesale price is $4.07 a gallon delivered. In September, we sold 3,625 gallons, and of that, about 2,400 gallons was sold during the fly-in weekend. The aviation fuel prices are listed on two main internet sites, AirNav and 4Flight. AirNav shows our current fuel price, and the airport manager is working to update the 4Flight site. Larry Vetterman and Rick provided a fly-in post-event lessons learned summary. We had 60 airplanes total. The parking went well, and we had fewer sandburr complaints than last year. The use of the city hangar went very well, and the temporary shower that was set up was well utilized. One comment that if we're going to be a camping-friendly airport, that a permanent airport shower would be important to us, and we'd like to consider converting the unused room adjacent to the women's restroom in the terminal building to a shower room. The organizers did a great job, and they truly honored and respected our airport. The airport manager provided an update on the Super AWAS and the beacon repairs. The beacon gearbox, motor, and wiring has been replaced, and the NOTAM has been removed. The Super AWAS has been verified and tested. We still have some issues, but Rick continues to work on that. The radio associated with the Super AWAS failed, but we got a free radio from the DOT, and it's been mated up with the computer unit, and we saved about $1,800 on that. So the total repair cost for the Super AWAS was about $1,300. South Dakota DOT reported back regarding the structures being built north of the airport property, and the review indicated that the structures are far enough away from the runway that an airport review is not required. I provided a review of the updated city website, specifically the committee tabs for agendas and meeting minutes, as well as the department-specific pages. And the member of the public that was present while at the meeting identified some inconsistencies in car rates, in our courtesy car rates. On other items brought up from the membership, the fuel pump calibration will be done by a third party and verified by the state. Meeting adjourned at 9:20 a.m. The next meeting will be Thursday, November 4th, 8 a.m. at the airport, and the public is welcome.
Any questions for Bill?
Yes, Bill, for those that are listening in or watching and those that are here, would you let them know what a Super AWAS is?
Super AWAS is the Airport Weather Observation System. It's something that you can either call into by telephone, or a pilot can key their mic and get the local airport weather.
Thanks, sir.
And we want an AWAS 3, because Super AWAS is old. And as soon as you fork up $350,000, we can get an AWAS 3.
Yeah, I'll write a check in the morning.
Waka waka.
So you said that the Super AWAS is old. Is it super old?
It's super old.
All right. Any other questions for Bill? Thank you. Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management, Larry?
Next meeting will be November 18th, 7 p.m. at the Mueller Center.
Thank you. Historic Preservation, Deborah?
The meeting was called to order on October 6th at 5 p.m. here at the Mueller Center. Present was Steve Wienia, Scott Sogi, myself, Mike Summer, Joe Mueller, Brian Crawford, and guests were Mayor Nelson and Luke Broyles. Under old business, updates from Scott on the Petty Building include the accumulation of items behind it. Apparently, the owner of the items plans to have an auction sale. This will be met with a conversation to remove said items. There is a building permit in place that addresses tuck pointing the exterior, starting at the rear of the building where the scaffolding is set up. The Fowler Building has had more photos taken at different times of the day to show the damages in different light. There are now 18 photos with a new letter prepared to be taken before a judge to readdress entry into the building to assess the interior. In the meantime, Mayor Nelson advised Scott to move forward in applying the fine for demolition by neglect, which is visible on the exterior. This is supported by state law and is a Class C misdemeanor in the amount of $250 per day. There was a complaint letter sent to the city regarding a piece of glass that had fallen from a window of one of our buildings downtown during the day and just missed a person walking on the sidewalk in front of the building on Friday, October 1st. The owner will be asked for a copy of his liability insurance, and his building permit is about to expire from no activity. He stated this last summer that work would commence as soon as material prices dropped. There has been no activity, and this is not acceptable. Scott is to follow up with the owners of the Many Moons Trading to inquire about finishing off the exposed vinyl between the windows that were replaced this summer. They are aware of this, and HPC is looking for a completion date. HPC is continuing to move forward with rewriting the ordinances for historical properties. A question for the state has been worked up regarding the historical boundaries. They have gotten smaller over the years, and the documentation that approved this cannot be located. Mayor Nelson stated he would follow up with a phone call regarding if the boundaries need to be written with legal description or if a map showing the boundaries is acceptable. We as a commission are seeking to eliminate the duplication of a separate historical preservation district that would allow the Historical Preservation Commission to fulfill those duties. Hot Springs is a small community and separate districts are not necessary. Under new business, the HPC is looking to approve a 3-year term for appointed members that would be staggered so as not to have many seats available at the same time. The appointment year would run from January to December. The Red Rock Resort will be presented for auction on November 10 at 5:30 p.m. And the HPC now has Sherwin-Williams historical paint chips for references for businesses that are contemplating color changes. The meeting adjourned at 6:20 p.m. and the next one is November 3rd. That's a Wednesday at 5 o'clock here at the Mueller Center. And the public is always welcome.
Any questions for Deborah? Thank you, Deborah.
Yep.
Evans Plunge Advisory, Linda?
Okay. We met on October 14th at noon at the Evans Plunge. Present were myself, Chris Hansen, Kathy Wren per phone, Okoya Zimiga, Tom Nas, Allison Ritterbush, Mara Smith. Absent was Troy Lurs. We started out with a discussion of a new committee member replacing Sandy Ferguson and perhaps looking within our membership for that member. We had a discussion update of Hot Springs High School collaboration on training and classes, and we tabled that until next meeting when Troy Lurs would be here. Review of monthly saves correlating to reduced lifeguard numbers. The dates for that was September 2nd through the current date. The lifeguard performed 2 assists with elderly swimmers coming off the slide, getting disorientated at the bottom. The Aquatics Wellness Director Lifeguard Instructor Training, Okoya, will attend the Lifeguard Instructor Training in Belle Fourche, October 22nd through 24th, paid for by taking $350 out of the supply budget, and she will be required to be employed by the Evans Plunge for 2 years after training or be required to pay back the cost of the training. When we can achieve appropriate staffing, will allow for opening on Wednesday, so we would only be closed 1 day a week instead of 2. We're working towards that goal. We are currently running a membership drive for the month of October. Our next meeting will be November 18th at 2021, noon at the Evans Plunge. Any questions?
What was that again about
About what?
the $232? What was that again?
That was the training that we approved for Okoya.
Okay.
The $350 was taken out of the supply budget, or will be taken out of the supply budget, is what I was told.
Okay, and all right, and what was the rest of that if she doesn't stay, go, what?
It says she will be required to be employed by the Evans Plunge for 2 years after training, or be required to pay back the cost of the training.
I think that stems from, we just paid for someone else to get trained and then they didn't stick around.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
It's been in place for a while.
Yeah.
And that last guy came to us trained, but didn't stick around. That was part of the reason you hired him at close to the top of scale, because he came trained.
I'd like to have a comment here.
Sure.
The city's been catching a lot of flack on social media about the plunge. But people's got to remember that the citizens of Hot Springs voted for the city to buy that. We didn't just go out and buy it. So I just want people to remember that.
Yeah, I think they have short memories.
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight some financials too that might surprise you in my report.
It's been doing pretty good this year, even with the extra closure.
Yeah, and Chris did look at, she compared the 2019 revenue to current revenue, and it's pretty basic on track and looks pretty good. She didn't use the 2020.
It was so weird.
Yeah, right. So, because she was concerned about being closed 2 days a week. So.
Thank you for pointing that out, Craig. Any other questions for Linda? Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Parks Recreation, Larry?
We had a pretty big crowd there for this one. So I had a lot of notes, but I'm going to only hit the highlights. So bear with me here. If I miss anything, don't take it personal, okay? Meeting started at 1:00 p.m. The committee members, myself, and numerous members from the public representing gymnastics, pickleball, water park, and interpretive trail were in attendance. 21 plus in all. The gymnastics program, both sides were able to sit and talk and come to a possible recommendation. Keep 1 more year at the same rate, raise next year, standard half-day rate or rate for nonprofit. In new business, the flagpole adjacent to the Centennial Bandshell Sons of American Legion would like to find a way for the flag to be more visible to the public. The tennis courts, lights need timer installed. Cemetery update, Lori is draining the water system for the year. Everything is looking good. On the rec update, they had the Laughing Yoga radio interview with Gary Becker. I think that was last week. And in the parks assets, trees in Butler Park need water system is old, getting some upgrades. Chautauqua Park upper member of public is donating a big playground supposed to be going in next spring. At the Brookside Park, the ADA American Disability Act grant is not enough for roof and charging stations for handicap. Roof cost exceeds the grant cost of material list is needed. Centennial Park, the water fountain, and ideal for a fiberglass tank to put in and replace when worn out. The interpretive trail was tabled until next meeting. Bill Rudiger was able to tell his reasons for not wanting the trail so close to his property. Sarah Close talked about the water carnival at Centennial Park, still in planning stage. She will get back to the committee when she's able to have possible start dates. And the Umaker Dog Park, Adam's working on getting more money to put fence up. The city is storing the fencing material until everything is ready. I lost track of time. I don't know what time we adjourned, but the next meeting will be November the 3rd at 1 o'clock at the Mueller Center.
I didn't catch the project that Sarah Close discussed.
It was a water park,
Okay.
Oh, water festival.
water festival
Thank
park.
you.
Yeah.
She's trying to resurrect a festival that was in town back in the early 19th century or 20th century, right? The 20th
This is a
century.
real good idea
The
what
early
she's got going on.
1900s.
Was it horse races, different events going on downtown, just trying to bring it in. But her problem was she was trying to coordinate with other events that are going around the Black Hills. And there were different recommendations. One of the recommendations was try to coincide with Crazy Horse Memorial. That way, when they go up there and see that and come down here, they can probably draw them into Hot Springs at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Larry?
Did you say when the next meeting was, Larry?
November 3rd, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
I have
One?
one question.
Yes, sir.
Are you guys looking into the horse racing or?
I'm not riding.
I
I'm
can
too
go for
old.
horse racing.
That was
Sarah was
probably
gonna
back
bring
when
all that
Mr.
up.
Butler's arena was present up at Butler Park, so
Right.
When we had
we
the
no longer have
racetracks
those
and the,
facilities.
and the stables and all that stuff.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Planning and zoning, JR?
Next meeting is Wednesday, October 20th, 7 PM, Mueller Center.
Public safety, Bill, JR?
Okay, public safety met today, the 18th, 10 a.m. here at the Mueller Center. Present were myself, JR, Deb, Linda, Chief Close, Safety Coordinator Lori Sherrard, and we had one member of the public. The member of the public was present to discuss concerns over speeding on University Avenue and to offer a suggestion to consider installing speed cameras to help address the issue of speeding. Specific incidents and current efforts were discussed. The use of cameras will be reviewed and assessed, and the results of that assessment will be reported back to the concerned party. Another member of the group asked if there had been any new information regarding the concern over safety issues brought up at a local extended stay motel, and the group has not received any new information from the property owner. The update from the police department, the annual deer count survey has been completed and the results have been uploaded using the app requested by South Dakota Game, Fish and Parks. And JR, I'm not even going to comment on how many were in your yard. The 2021 Durango, we think, is about a month out from being in service. Suntech has experienced some COVID-related delays with some of the equipment. The dash cam, the car radio that we needed to order is in. The radar that we ordered should be in this week. The items that were previously ordered for this vehicle that could not be installed have been returned to the vendor. Another good news, Officer Shively will graduate from the academy on November 19th. Chief Close provided an update on a variety of recent incidents. And in September, the department responded to 526 calls. On old business, we've got no update on family daycare provider compliance. And regarding, we did talk about the Garden Street signage. The 15-mile-an-hour speed limit signs will be going up. And we're having a hard time finding the right-shaped curve signs for that unique curve that's at your house. But we are going to get them, and they will be going up. We talked about house and property numbers. The committee talked about it, and just as a cursory estimate, we think that probably 10 to 15% of the houses in town do not have address numbers. And all properties should have 4-inch high address numbers on the houses. And the committee recommends that as a way to build awareness, that we put notifications on the water bills. And so we will generate a brief statement that could be included on the bills and submit that for review. Due to some computer problems, we weren't able to review the police department vehicle policy. So we'll work on that next month. And then we've already discussed the school resource officer documents. Under new business, the committee reviewed a sample medical cannabis application form and recommends its use by the city. Of the several samples reviewed, the selected version was, in the opinion of the committee, the most complete and appropriate. We looked at probably 4 samples that had been generated by other communities. JR did identify that we probably need to develop or find some acceptance standards for the required submittals. There's a number of things that any applicant has to submit along with the application, such as a lighting plan, a fencing plan. And as JR stated, we probably need to define what is an acceptable lighting plan, what is an acceptable fencing and barricading plan, so that if we say no, why did we say no? So what's the standard by which we're going to gauge those plans? So we'll need to put together some more work, but Misty, the committee agrees that that one sample from that we looked at is probably the best out there.
Canton, I think.
Canton, yes. Yeah, they did some good work, and we have no problem with utilizing their good work. So the meeting adjourned at 11:30 a.m. and our next meeting will be Monday, November 15th, 10 a.m. here at the Mueller Civic Center Conference Room, and the public is welcome.
Anything to add, Chair?
Nope, good job.
Any questions?
Yeah, on those streets, on the house numbers, what was that thing that was going on a couple of years ago where it had some students and a couple of old people, they were painting in front of houses? Did you? The curb painting?
We talked about curb painting, but in the wintertime, that's probably not going to be very useful if we get snow.
I had that done at my house, the curb painting, and the paint didn't last very long.
It's gone at my house too, so. Is the paint on the deer gone also, JR? I'm just asking for a friend.
I have no comment.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Public Works, Dave, Craig?
Craig, you want to do it?
I don't have no.
Oh, you didn't have your note. Public Works met on October the 10th at 1 p.m. here at the Mueller Center. Those in attendance were Sarah Beck, Bob Nelson, Deborah Johnston, Craig Romey, Tracy Bastian, and myself. New business. We discussed the bump outs that are going to be placed in front of Big Bats, going through some of the stuff and suggestions and on how those will be decorated, how those would be laid out as far as plantings and so forth. That is an ongoing thing. Second, this one is something I'd like to get an idea from the council. We have 2 items here. Use of water meter, a second water meter at 2244 Minnetonka Avenue was unknown by the city utilities as it was not being read. Now, they are using a second meter that has not been read for so many years that it was pretty much off the system. They came in to us, letting us know that they were using it and wanted it replaced due to the fact that it's leaking. This was not billed. The city was not told that this was being in use because the property owner turned it on themselves. Public Works is recommending that we do a 12-month charge, back charge, minimum charge for this property. For water used, there is no exact way of knowing how long they've had it done, but the simple thing would be to go back 12 months, and the property owner has been there for more than 2 years. Number 3 on here, resident at 201 Battle Mountain Road within the city limits is using their own water, which we assume, this is an assumption, that their water is from an old pump. And it has not been billed for sewer use. And we're recommending the same basic minimum charge for sewer because when you use water, obviously you use your sewer. So with those 2 items there, Public Works is recommending that a minimum charge for 12 months at 2244 Minnetonka Avenue and 6 to 8 months minimum charge for sewer for 201 Battle Mountain Road. Now, on a third item here, we have, trying not to use anybody's name, just addresses, at 145 South Garden Street, going back approximately 7/20 of 21, we had a manhole, a brick manhole that was hand-built, probably 50 to 100 years ago. With the amount of people that we had at the park during the arts and crafts show, our system was being pretty much used at its peak. With a peak going on, the manhole could not contain the water. It was more than it can do. With this, the pressure of the water in the manhole had to find a way out. So being it was built so long ago, and we had a failure of the manhole, which in that area is a lot of cobblestone. It found the path of least resistance and went into the basement of this property. Public Works, for the very first time, has recommended that we pay for the cleanup of this. Now, the cleanup we are talking is Serval was contracted to clean up this property. Now, you have to understand that was sewage, and that went into the property owner's basement, ruining the carpet, ruining the walls, bearing the fact that the interior walls are built in portions to the same as the manhole. Obviously, over time, this property had a good leak. But we are suggesting, we know that the failure of the manhole is our system. Everybody pays for water, so the services that the city provides. In this particular case, it was blatantly a failure of our equipment that caused this. So Public Works is recommending that we, as a city, cover the cost of the Serval cleanup and That cost comes to $4,382.51. Now, I know there's going to be citizens out there that feel that they've been slighted, but this was actually a failure of our equipment. This is something due to its age and the process of decay that fell on us. So with those three items off my report, I would like to hear if anybody has any questions, anything that from the council. The cleanup here is not just the water, but the bacteria, the mold, everything that goes along with sewage. This is making the person's property back livable. These are the things that Public Works and those on the committee believe to be our responsibility. Now, I know a lot of people have had troubles of basements flooding and stuff like this. I understand that. In this particular case, like I said earlier, it was a blatant failure of our equipment. So I am saying this on camera, in front of public and the council, that is the recommendation for from Public Works to the council.
That manhole, I believe, is being replaced right now.
The manhole is being replaced. We're doing that in-house. We're trying to get a contractor to come in, but at this point in time, everybody's so short-handed and, so close to winter time. They're finishing up jobs that they are on. We could not get somebody to come in and do it immediately. So we should have that done probably by the end of this week, if not the beginning of next week.
The manhole was replaced on Saturday.
Okay. So I know this is treading on unknown trail here. So that is the recommendation as far as those three items go. And I would love to hear any feedback from either the public or the council. And I know I'll get feedback from the public, but that is the recommendation on those items there.
Dave, on those first two items, is there anything in the water or sewer ordinance that address those charges? Oh, I apologize for not knowing that answer, but it almost, what you've proposed sounds reasonable to me, but I was just wondering if there's anything in our ordinance that would address something like that.
Not that I know of as of right now. We can find out easy enough, but just like everybody else, every citizen property owner here in town, you pay for the services rendered by the city when used and not paid. In some sense, you have to understand also that we were never told that they were utilizing something that hadn't been done in many, many moons.
Yeah.
The actual meter, so everybody gets an idea, the actual meter that was brought in, was told for us to go check and replace, was probably put in the 1930s or 1940s. So that gives you all an idea of how old and how off the system this was. But to their kudos, the meter still worked other than a leak, which not even the new ones go that long. So in that particular case, the property owner turned on that meter without asking or informing the city that their services were being used.
Dave, I thought we went with 12 months on both the water and the sewer issue.
And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you on that one, Craig, but the thing is, the other one on the sewer, they haven't been there that long.
Okay.
So I am not going to suggest to charge them for more than the time that they've owned the property.
Okay.
So that's why I put it down as I did. Now,
Dave,
go ahead.
on the backup of the sewer into the basement of that property,
Yes.
do you know, or does anybody know, do we have in our ordinances that say that we have, the homeowner must have a backflow valve to prevent that type of an issue from happening? It may be on new builds, but I don't know if we had something in place prior to that.
This property owner has been there for over 50 years. I highly doubt there's even one in there. But the thing is the backflow valve wouldn't have done anything because it didn't go through the pipes. It went through the ground.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, that area there is cobblestone. And when I say cobblestone, there's stones like this mixed with dirt. So there's a variation of being able to leach water through that very easily. So in that particular case, a backflow wouldn't have helped them in any way because it came through the walls. One particular wall mostly, and penetrated another in a smaller area with less volume coming through.
Okay.
But no.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. We will move on then from those three items. We'll move on. Battle Mountain Road needs some millings. The state is going to provide those millings, and they have requested that we do some work and spread those out. Now, yes, we will be paying for labor, but we have to always keep in consideration the fact that the state does things, and very recently, 385 and, I don't have it in front of me, but do you remember? Dexter, yes. Anyway, we had a grate there that was our responsibility, a custom grate that we would either have had to gone to Rapid and have somebody build one to replace it. The state went ahead and out of their pocket and they repaired that. Okay, so when I say you got to consider, we work together at times. Sometimes the cost comes our way, sometimes the cost goes their way. So the millings are going to be provided by the state for this road, and when we have the manpower and time, we'll get those laid out, and that will be fairly soon. Tennis court lights, we've discussed that. I do believe that has already been taken care of, but during this meeting, we referred it back to parks because that would have been something in parks that they should take care of. A hub has been found for our 89 International dump truck, so that should be getting repaired. I'm going to go through beans. I spent so much time with the other. Let's see. Martin Street project, water and sewer, that should be starting to go here pretty quick. A lot of that is going to be due to weather, how that project proceeds. Divers have been into wastewater plant, and we have figured out what little things we need to get done there, and we did find some things that were just odd, but we did find them. Anyway.
Dave, that was in the 2 million.
No. We'll leave that one alone until we know more.
Well, it wasn't the sewer plant.
No, it wasn't the sewer plant, but those two were side by side.
Oh.
That's why it came out. So we'll just leave that alone until we have more information. Let's see. We are still working on getting 300 garbage totes for our homes. We are presently out, and we are trying to get our hands on more. And being we have so many building permits, those are going to be probably used up awful fast. See. Moving on, utilities. Let's see. That's really it for utilities. Let's move on to code enforcement. This will be interesting to a lot of the property owners' nuisance and ordinance violation list. We have discussed before, code and ordinance enforcement specialist. That's with Mr. Joel Johnson. He's the owner of the company. 110 letters have been sent out for those properties that are in violation. We put out 2 weeks, 2 publications in the paper. It is on the website, noting to the citizens that these things are becoming, and if you need to go on there and check on anything that you might feel you might be on the fence over of something you might need to take care of, you can go on the website and get your information to any of your projects that you might think need to be done. Those letters will be put out by enforcement specialists. You can contact them directly. Unfortunately, I left a little note that I had with the phone number on it. You can call and talk to Mr. Johnson directly if you wish, if you are one of those recipients of the letters. Moving on from that, we discussed the petty building, which has been touched on already. And as far as the depot roof, we have received 1 quote, and we're looking for 2 more on that. We discussed that earlier. So really, pretty much that's about it. I spent most of my time on the first 3 items. Our next meeting will be November the 9th at 1 p.m. here at the Mueller Center. Please, anybody with any questions, any concerns, please, you're more than happy to have you attending our meeting. Any questions?
Want to add anything, Craig?
I would never dive at the sewer plant. I've been a diver
that was
since
a little
76.
off-putting after I said it, but I just kept on going.
Yeah, it was the 5-year inspection of our 2-million-gallon tank.
Yes.
Tracy said everything went fine with it. I don't have a golf advisory report for you, and that committee will, going forward, will meet as needed as the course is closing down. We're not going to have a lot of things to talk about. That takes us to Misty and her finance officer report.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't put this in my memo to you, but I do need to publicly thank Karen for covering the last 3 meetings. I tried to get her to keep coming, but she was done after 3. Some of our harder meetings with the joint public hearing, and so I really thank her for stepping up and stepping in, filling my shoes while I was gone. I did provide you the September month-end financial reports along with your memo, and I'd point out a few things on your year-to-date profit and loss summary. We are 75% of the way through the year. I would point out to you the golf course, their revenues are exceeding expenditures by $128,687, 75% of the way through the year. Also, I'd point out to you Evans Plunge revenues are exceeding expenditures by $199,453 so far this year. The next report, your fund summary report that compares budget to actual for each of the funds of the city. I'd point out again that we're 75% of the way through the year. So as you look at the collections for revenues or the expenses and those percentages, although we don't typically follow a 12th of a year standard in our months, it's a good indicator of how we're doing for the year. And again, I'd point out to you the golf course has collected 97.9% of their revenues for the year, which is really good since not a lot of people golf in October, November, and December. And expenditures, they've only spent about 67%. Revenue in the plunge, they've collected 76% of what they expected for the year so far and have only spent 51%. Those funds do hold on to some of their bigger expenses until their busy season is over, so I do expect to see some more expenses. But both of those funds are managing the 2021 season very well. The cash balance report, which is the current balances in our Wells Fargo or our main checking account, I'd point out that the golf course is sitting at $196,000 in the positive, and the plunge is $218,000 in the positive. That's really good for this time of year. But not to only shine good news, Evans Plunge semi-annual bond payment, which consists of principal and interest for $131,450, is coming out in November. But our hope is that with the strong years that they've had in revenue and the management of their expenses and their current cash balance, that we won't need a large amount of the subsidy that we budgeted for both of those funds. But we'll take a good look at that in November, and you'll be making the motion to transfer any subsidy if needed sometime in December. Just wanted to point out a few of those things. And the last thing I'd point out on your CD list is that we do have our Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund CD maturing in November. So I'll be getting some rates and making a recommendation on what to do next with those funds. And unfortunately, CD rates aren't super great still, so I'm not expecting very high rates. It's hard to believe we've entered the last quarter of 2021. A review of the attached reports can give you a good idea of where the city's at in terms of our plans. A recent review of our year-to-date sales tax collections show an increase overall of 16%, or $219,000 over the same time last year. The gross receipts tax, which is what funds our 211 Liquor, Lodging, and Dining Fund, with 80% of the revenues going to the Chamber of Commerce, is also up 39%, or $40,000 from this time last year. These receipts, they're taxes that reflect an additional 1% on alcoholic beverages, eating establishments, lodging accommodations, ticket sales or admissions to places of amusement, athletic and cultural events. And if you recall, this fund suffered significant decreases in 2020 as a result of the pandemic. So the large increase over last year reflects that variance. But when we compare 2021 year-to-date to 2019, we're still up in both general receipts tax, which is by 3%, and gross receipts tax, still by 21%. So that's very good news for those businesses in our community. The next update is on our American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA money, which we were calling it ARPA for a while, but then they added a new acronym for non-entitlement units of government, so it's CSLFRF funds. This is the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. We have talked about and passed agreements at just recent council meetings to make us eligible to receive the first tranche of those monies made available to our community. All eligible expenditures have to be made between March of this year and the end of the year 2024. As I've mentioned before, all spending is restricted to specific expenditure categories, and compliance with guidance is mandatory. Different than the CRF money we received last year, where we received reimbursements once the state reviewed our submittals for compliance. Compliance for this money is all on us. There is no additional guidance. We're asking other communities and we're seeking help from the folks who work with these grants, but the city's solely responsible for maintaining compliance. So I give you some links to the authorized use of funds, and the discussions have been investments in water and sewer as an area for use of this one-time money within the city. Any funds not expended for eligible uses must be returned to the Treasury. We intend to use all allocated funding if possible. The South Dakota Department of Labor released the new state minimum wages to be effective January 1. The increase is 50 cents. So South Dakota minimum wage is going from $9.45 to $9.95 an hour. As a reminder, federal minimum wage remains unchanged at $7.25 an hour. We have a resolution for 2022 establishing part-time and seasonal employee pay rates. As we've done in the past, we'll be approving equivalent increases for all seasonal and part-time positions. We budgeted 30 cents for this increase as the new rates don't come up prior to the required passage of our budget. Wage rates for all positions within the city as well as the workforce shortage continues to be a topic of discussion and analysis. Thank you for your approval and passage of the 2022 budget. This budget uses $429,864 of cash applied or savings to balance and allocated $112,000 to outside organizations. The budget added 2 new obligations to the city debt load for the lease purchase of a loader and a backhoe, totaling approximately $72,300 in yearly payments for the next 6 years. We also added a full-time position to the police department for a dedicated school resource officer. I certified the municipal tax levy to Fall River County Auditor on the 26th of September for the maximum available amount of $1,252,878. As we discussed during our budget meetings, historically, we collect about 97 to 98% of the amount levied. So our 2022 budget calculates revenue for current year general property taxes of $1,215,000. Although our levied amount increased to the max allowable, taxes overall for homeowners in the city decreased as our overall mill levy went from 6.51 to 5.98 per $1,000 of taxable value. So that's good news for property owners. This seems like a great time to once again remind council and the public that as we continue to approve new one-time and recurring expense increases, like wages or loan payments, we must balance that spending growth with equal revenue growth. The city only has so many ways to fund the many services it provides. Taxes are a major source of revenue, and we owe our taxpayers a fiscally responsible approach to any and all growth in order to have long-term financial sustainability. It's up to our current governing body to ensure that future generations of taxpayers don't face an unmanageable bill for services provided to current generations. Using large amounts of cash applied to balance our budgets simply won't work in perpetuity. I've said this before, but it bears repeating now. As we approve increases, we also need to balance those increases with offsetting revenue increases or decreased recurring expenses. Feels good to get new things, add more help in departments, and pay better wages, but if it's not sustainable growth, we can't continue to fund the increases. It's a difficult balancing act, and I just want to ensure that we're addressing both sides of an issue to avoid future desperation. And one more topic on budget. There's been some confusion recently regarding what was or was not approved during budget sessions. I want to clarify what you approved in the 2022 appropriation ordinance was only budget authority. Nothing can or should be done or purchased if not built into the budget. Things like building and equipment repairs and maintenance and the purchase of new items or equipment discussed during budget planning does not pre-approve specific vendors or purchases. We're always required to follow federal, state, and local bid laws and policies when buying, and all 2022 budget purchases must occur in the 2022 calendar year. If you have any questions, suggestions, or concerns about finances, direction, or policies of the city, please don't ever hesitate to ask me. Thank you.
Any questions for Misty?
Very good report.
Thank you, Misty. I have just a couple things for you. The redesigned, updated city website has been up and running for about a month and a half. Visually, I think it's a lot more appealing. It's easier to navigate. We are updating some items. When we moved from the old website to the new, the folks that did that for us simply ported over all the old data, and we're identifying that there are some updates that need to be made to that. But I think it's more functional and easier for folks to navigate. we'll continue making changes as we need to. It's certainly easier to add pages than it was before. So I'm excited about the new website. And then the city administrator position. This morning, the 5 individuals I asked to go through the screening process of the 23 candidates that had applied for the position. Got that list down to 3 individuals that they felt we should interview. So we interviewed those 3 individuals today. I'm very excited about all 3 of them. The next step going forward will be to set up an interview with the department heads. I really believe that councils come and go. We hope that we have long-term city employees. So I think it's important for those folks to get a sense of who their new boss might be and offer some thoughts and opinions on that. So I'll work with them to figure out what their schedules are and when they would be available to actually sit down and have a conversation. It may not be an interview with them. It's been suggested that the department heads have 2, 3, 4 minutes to describe their department to the potential candidates, things that are coming up, what they're working on, just give them a sense of the particular departments that they're responsible for. So we're close to having a recommendation for council as far as who the new city administrator will be. That's all I have for you. If you have any questions for me.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.